We have tiny communities that have serious water problems that they can't afford to fix, and they're sort of on their own.
I remember watching Katrina happen, and people were standing there with no water, and we have gone here 2, 3 days, 4 days without water because of our water pumps being old and tearing down, breaking down. And it's like, you know what? I know what they're going through because we had gone through it many, many times here in Tullyville.
Eunice Martinez lives in a small farming community of Tullyville, California, just a 3-hour drive from Los Angeles.
My father, when he's from Mexico, he had the American dream of getting work, having a home, providing for the kids, getting education for the children. But one issue that always took place was water. You know, you want to see prosperity, but when you feel like you're still living in a third world country because of water issues, makes it hard to trust the American dream. I vote, I'm a citizen. I pay my taxes like everybody else that's a citizen. I have lived in Tullyville off and on for the past 35 years. I can remember as a child going, why are we going to the park, Dad? It was because we had to get water.
I guess they figured that just because a lot of people here were migrant workers for many years, that they didn't have any more rights than the wealthy people. We've basically been getting left out of almost everything here because it was said at one time we're lowlifes. These people here have just as much right as any other citizen. And that's my feelings on it.
Residents here are having to pay twice for water. They're forced to buy or make the decision to buy bottled water because their tap water is toxic and they cannot drink it.
Some of the residents are spending up to $330 a month just on water because they're having to buy bottled water for cooking and bathing, as well as drinking.
I guess basically what you want to know about the water is constantly, month after month, the readings come back at dangerous levels.
You know, it's a terrible situation. You hear a lot of reports on TV and the radio and newspapers talking about bottled water. You don't know where it's coming from, who's regulating it, what contaminants it may have. So you have to put your faith somewhere, your blind faith. When you have to go and get water, it makes it difficult. It's hard to make ends meet. I buy bottled water from the stores, my local market, or whenever I'm in town in Visalia, which is a 20-minute drive for me. And that's the majority of everybody here. That's how we get our water, drinking water.
Something has to be done besides just arguing back and forth what they can do or what they can't do. It's not a good situation.
Because corporate farming is largely a self-regulated industry, there's no oversight of the pesticides and fertilizers being used. As a result, communities like Tullyville end up with polluted and undrinkable groundwater.
The pesticides, the fertilizers, whether it be underground or overhead, that's how our waters got contaminated with nitrates.
Nitrates at a high level or levels exceeding the legal standard can provoke the blue baby syndrome, which is when a baby under 6 months of age, if they ingest this type of water, the body or the bloodstream is unable to absorb the oxygen, so the baby can literally die. It's also linked to an array of other health impacts. The reality is you don't want to drink this water. It's scary.
The irony is, a canal with clean drinking water runs just along the edge of Tullyville.
As you can see here, here's a Frank Kern Canal, which serves Fresno to Bakersfield, 150 miles, surface water for the farmers. Feet away is my community of Tullyville. We here in Tullyville are 1 mile east of Exeter, which has access to this, yet we have no access for it, only for the farmers. The main workforce here they're Latinos that work out in the fields, farm workers who serve these farmers, but no access to this water. This is an injustice. What else can I say? It's maddening.
Well, I think drinking water will become similar to healthcare in this country, because if you have resources, if you are affluent, then you can afford not to use the tap water system. But everybody can't afford to buy bottled water. And so if we don't invest in our infrastructure, we will have what's equivalent to water apartheid. That is not the American way.
Well, the farmers have more rights because, one, they are providing food, a food source for the world, the country, the county here. So yes, they do have more rights than we humans here that are suffering water problems. And
that's not just the case in Tuleville. It's like that in all of the United States. Farmers are the #1 users of groundwater.
Worldwide, we use about 40 to 50% of water for agriculture. Here in the U.S., it's about 70%.
They're also the #1 polluters of groundwater.
Virtually all of us are downstream from major farming operations. People in the city have water that comes to them that is already contaminated by animal waste, by pesticides, and fertilizers. And these get in the water system, are very difficult to remove, and threaten the health and safety of people in the cities themselves.
Nitrogen and phosphorus are the two most important nutrients that are applied to any agricultural crop. They're very important to the tremendous productivity of our American farms.
It causes dead zones, like the huge dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. And what happens when you have a dead zone, what that means is there's not enough oxygen in the water for aquatic creatures to live. What you end up with is a real problem in terms of loss of those fisheries, loss of shell fisheries. It's a big drain on the economy. There actually are no effective controls on pesticides. They can use whatever they want, and often their goal is to increase yield, and that's their livelihood. The law doesn't require controls on farmers, so it's a voluntary program in the United States to control farm runoff. Some farmers worry about stewardship and protecting the environment, but not all farmers do that, and that's why it's really important to have controls.
Are we prepared as a nation to say, we think these issues of water quantity and quality are important enough that we will restrict the behaviors of individuals with respect to these or not? I think that's the biggest question.
And if you thought that nutrient and pesticide pollution is mostly a problem caused by farmers, think again.
The largest crop in the United States, the largest irrigated crop, happens to be millions of acres of lawn that we water, that we put some very troubling chemicals on to keep it green and weed-free. So it's not just the problem of the farmer, it's us.